Welcome to the Pinch to Zoom podcast. I'm Stetson.
And I'm Gabe.
In this episode, we are talking about hot new gadgets coming out this summer. It's our summer tech special.
Yeah, we didn't really plan this way, but the companies said, hey, it's summer. You might all be at the beaches chilling and relaxing and try not to get sunburned, but we're going to burn you with some sweet new technology. It's hot.
And that's what we're seeing. Woo, crazy new gadgets.
Yes, indeed. We got cameras, we got gaming devices, it's a wide array of stuff. We're only going to touch on some of the hottest tech items and stuff that really piqued our interest. But yeah, we saw everything from, lenses, or I think there was also some cell phone news coming out, but we won't really touch on that because there's always kind of rumors in that category. This is actually some confirmed stuff that actually happened, not just speculation.
Yeah, so you're going to be able to purchase these products already, or they're coming out in the very near future, and something to get excited about going either back to school or going into the holiday season.
Yeah, so let's just get right to it. It's hot out. I don't want to waste any more time sitting around recording a podcast, so let's get into this episode right now. The first thing that I think was the most exciting was the Sigma FP mirrorless camera for me.
Wow, and Gabe, what is the Sigma FP mirrorless camera? So I know Sigma. I used they make the quote unquote YouTuber lens, 18 to 35 millimeter lens. Is this their first entry into the camera space?
I think they do have another camera or two out. They're around the $800 to $1,200 range, but this could potentially be a little more expensive as it is full frame, and it is really set to kind of shake up the whole full frame mirrorless industry. Sigma is not, set with just, all right, doing things at the status quo or doing things as is. They're trying to make this camera the smallest and lightest full frame camera to date. It's supposed to be under a pound without battery and SD card. And the specs are just really kind of quite amazing. It has 24.6 megapixels, 14-bit RAW photos. So that's very good image quality with, a lot of color depth. It also can output 4K, 24 FPS, 12-bit RAW to, your Ninja recorders or whatever else external recorders you might use. And it has this really cool mode called Cinematograph mode. Do you know what a cinematograph is?
Yeah, I actually remember doing a homework assignment in high school for this. Basically, what a cinematograph is, right, you have a still image, and there's one part of it that is essentially an animated GIF, and it's moving.
Yeah, these are really cool images to put up, something a little different to put on your Instagram feed or Twitter or whatever. And there is actually apps that can take, like if you take a still photo of a waterfall, you can go in, I think it's like Flow Motion Pro or something like that, and you can it'll kind of animate it for you. But it's, it's not the best thing, and it only works with like certain things, like I said, with waterfalls and stuff like that. But with this new Sigma camera, it will actually have a cinematograph mode built in, so you can create a GIF with moving parts right in the camera. And that's really cool.
That's amazing. Traditionally, what I had to do in my class is I had to capture or record a video and then turn it into a cinematograph using Photoshop. So this is amazing that it's being done in the camera. But Gabe, how do you feel about that? It looks like this camera, it not only does cinemagraphs, but it has different color profiles. It's got a lot of different creative tools for essentially processing images. Do you like processing your images on camera, or would you rather have like the powerful processor in your computer handle all of that image manipulation?
Well, I think that's a fair point that, yeah, a lot of people do love to, and I am one of those that I like to use my computer. I know how to do it on my computer, and the tools are a lot more powerful often. However, we are seeing, smartphones are super powerful now, so they can take similar processors, put them into cameras, and so much content is being posted very quickly. So it helps to be able to, if I can have my camera, do a cinematograph 80% as well as I can do on my computer, but, it only takes 2 minutes versus me on my computer maybe taking an hour or two. That's extremely helpful, especially if I want to, get to something else and not spend forever on that project.
Absolutely. I see this as a huge potential for social media people, like being able to create this creative content so fast and so easily directly on the camera. Like you said, saving a lot of time. I think that's where this really has a lot of potential.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about this camera, I'll just describe if people haven't seen it, is it's very minimalistic. It's reminiscent of, the Blackmagic pocket cinema cameras a little bit. It doesn't look like Sony's or, really even Canons or Nikons or Panasonics. For one, the general menu buttons, which are usually on the top of the camera above the LCD screen, those have been moved to the bottom. So there's kind of a bar under the 3.2-inch LCD touchscreen. And then you have on the front really nothing other than, just the logo and, the front part of the dial for controlling the aperture. So it's a very interesting approach. They really went to what was essential for, a mirrorless full frame camera today, and then built it up, adding features that were new features that could be helpful given today's, the production style. One thing I think is awesome, how most cameras have that mode dial that has like 52,000 modes and you only use 2 of them?
Yes, I do know that.
Yeah, so now the Sigma FP basically just has a still mode and a sign mode, and it's just a switch that you put back and forth. So, all right, you need to, record video. All right, you put it into sign mode. All right, you need to take a picture, switch it into still mode. So much easier.
Is it sign? Is it cine?
It might be cine, but I call it sign.
Okay.
Because
yeah,
I started calling it sign just now, and I'm going to commit to that 100%.
I love that. I love the commitment. But yeah, honestly, I love this ingenious idea. Like, this is something that is so fundamental. When I use a camera, it's either in photo mode and I'm taking images, or it's in video mode, I'm taking videos. Having just a dedicated switch to instantaneously switch between those, beautiful. Love to see that.
Yeah, and then you, once you're in, cine mode, I guess I'll switch to what you're calling it, or still image mode, then you can, change from, all right, aperture priority, HDR mode, panorama mode. You can go in between the individual modes there, but you don't really need a physical switch on the external part of the camera. It just adds weight and, is kind of a little bit unnecessary in today's world.
It also looks like it has a dedicated tone and color button, and I think this ties back to the creative potential this camera has, where it's able to do some cool image processing just in the camera itself, again, saving you time in post-production.
Yeah, I mean, that is basically, you've summed it up there. The unfortunate thing is we don't have a release date yet for this camera. It is expected probably it will be out in the fall. I mean, Sigma did actually officially announce this, so, it's out in the open. They're trying to get it out there before possibly, some other mirrorless cameras come out. But yeah, I'd expect this to be in probably the probably $1,600 to $2,000 range, maybe a little bit more expensive depending on what they offer for internal video recording. But yeah, expect it probably the fall, maybe October. So.
And Gabe, who do you think this full frame camera from Sigma is for?
I mean, I really think this will be a hit among vloggers if they can, price it right, because the size and compactness of this camera is just going to be huge. Also, it could be really popular just among everyone, because if you add an external video recorder to it, the 12-bit RAW video is really handy, and that's really only seen in the likes of the new Nikon Z6 or Z7, and I think that's about it. Maybe Sony might offer it, or I think maybe Panasonic might also offer it in their S1 cameras to output that high, but even I think Sony is only 10-bit RAW out. So yeah, that's really quite amazing what Sigma is looking to do with this camera.
Yeah, I actually kind of see this rivaling the Blackmagic camera that just came out, both in terms of the size and what it's claiming to do with the specs, and also the user interface, where it's kind of a simpler approach where you're not getting buried in Sony's menu system. So it's a little bit easier and more intuitive to use.
Yeah, so we'll have to wait and see on that. We'll probably be talking about that in a couple more months. What do we have up next, Stetson?
I think we should keep with the camera trend. We had another new camera come out, this one from Sony. And Gabe, you've been waiting for a Sony camera to come out, right?
It's the A7S3, right?
Right? Yeah, that's what everyone's wanting. So this is the follow-up to the great video. Nope, it's actually the Sony A7R Mark IV.
No, I wasn't ready. That is, yeah, I saw this and I saw new Sony camera, and then I kept reading and saw the R after the 7. And I was a bit let down just on that point, because I do want the A7S II, and there are probably hundreds of thousands of video creators out there and freelance filmmakers and videographers that are all chomping at the bit. Just come on, Sony, release that A7S III. And yeah, that was released in 2015. It's 4 years later now. We still haven't seen an update, but in that time period, we've seen 2 updates to the R line of the A7 series.
Wow, I didn't actually know that, but it's amazing the R is getting so much more focus. And this one, despite, Gabe, your, I would say, disappointment in not being the camera you were looking for, it actually seems pretty good. Like, this camera's packing some specs. We're talking a 61 megapixel camera, and that's nuts. That's absolutely massive.
That's the number one, or like the largest sensor in a mirrorless full frame camera based on resolution. I think the previous high was maybe like 48 megapixels in the Panasonic S1R, or like 50 something. But yeah, this at 61 blows them all away. And so it's obviously, this is the one that's more dedicated to still photos and, is for high end photographers. Actually, it's more megapixels than the A9, Sony's other mirrorless, that is technically their mirrorless camera, but that also has a lot more pro features, faster shooting and stuff like that.
And this also has 576 autofocus points with Sony's really precise autofocus system. It does face tracking, it does eye tracking. I've been using their A7 III. I've been very impressed with what it has to offer in terms of its focusing capabilities. I think this is going to be exceeding that and performing very well along.
Yeah, the amazing thing, you mentioned the 567 phase detection points. That's 74% coverage on the frame. What's also so awesome about, all right, 61 megapixels, you might not need that all the time, but you can use then APS-C crop mode, all right, and still get 26 megapixels and have 325 point phase detection that covers the full frame.
That's nuts.
Yeah, so like if you have if you're going out doing wildlife photography and you want some extra reach on your lens, switch to crop mode, and you instantly get like that extra crop factor, and you've got still 325 points, which is more than a lot of other cameras, and still 26 megapixels, which is totally usable.
Which I'll add is higher resolution than my camera. I think the A7 III is 24 megapixels.
Yeah, it is actually. So yeah, I mean, it's pretty incredible. Granted, that's not the full frame, but still with longer lenses and such, you get that that, what is it, that the depth of
extra
field,
reach.
Well, you get the depth of field. So I'm saying, if you're using the full frame just for that the shallower depth of field, using a longer lens, you're already going to get that compression that will make it look like you have a larger or lower depth of field. So yeah, this is cool. This is incredible. Also, if 61 megapixels wasn't enough for you, this has this mode called Pixel Shift Multi Shooting Mode, which will capture 16 frames, and each one will have a slightly shift the sensor, and it can combine them all for 240 megapixels.
That is absolutely,
isn't that insane?
Absurd. That's nuts. Wow.
Yeah. I would love to see one of these in full resolution eventually, because yeah, if that can do a really good job of stitching those each image together into one solid image, 240 megapixels is just insane.
And it sounds, based on that technology, this camera is coming with IBIS, the in-body image stabilization. Is that true?
Yep. It has 5.5 stop in-body stabilization. So incredible. And speaking of the body, they also kind of redesigned a lot of the buttons and the body itself. So I know Sony's have been, critiqued for a long time, especially their beginning generation of the A7 series, about how they weren't very ergonomic. The hand grip kind of felt like you were holding a brick, or it was non-existent. So they've been dealing with a lot of issues, and that's kind of what comes when you do a super fast release cycle like they were doing. But now that they've kind of slowed down a little bit, they've really worked on improving some of the smaller things like the usability, the controllability, and like how it feels in your hand.
And I was seeing, for video creators, this is predominantly a photo camera, but I was seeing it does record 4K HDR at 30 frames per second.
Yeah, I mean, that's That's kind of standard with Sony's cameras. I don't think it has a full frame recording though. So again, that is like the Super Cine, Super 35 mode. So you're not getting that full frame sensor like you do on the A7S II, which is why people love the S series cameras. But still, yeah, it's very capable for video. And they also added the fact that you can use its eye focus tracking on video mode. So that is really helpful for people who shoot, models or pets or stuff like that.
And Gabe, has Sony listened to all the fans wanting them to release the flip out screen to compete with Canon?
Have they? I don't know. I think no, they have not.
That
would be too good. But it is a touch screen, and honestly, I don't really miss the flip out Canon screen too much. Occasionally now and then it'd be like, yeah, it'd be nice, but what Sony's doing is good. I mean, this camera starts at $3,500, so pretty expensive camera, but yeah, it's quite amazing what they're doing. And we'll see. It goes on sale, I think, September. It's shipping. It's available for pre-order now, but yeah, this camera is going to be in the hands of a lot of photographers. Probably not as many video users, but they did also, one more thing, is they added a new audio interface, a digital audio interface, so you get more options when recording video to how to look at your audio. And I think all these little improvements for video, the redesigned body, the more ergonomic grip, the changed buttons, and that new audio interface, stuff that we're going to see now in the A7S III, which they have confirmed is in the works and will most likely probably be coming out sometime in the fall.
I think per usual, Sony really knocked it out of the park here with their A7R Mark IV. This is a feature-rich, feature-packed camera, a great step up in their lineup, and like you said, I think it's going to be in the hands of a lot of pro photographers, and I think they're going to be really satisfied with what the Sony A7R IV has to offer.
Yeah, do you find yourself needing more resolution ever, or no?
I have been using the 4K video. I love being able to punch in. This does shoot 4K for video purposes.
I'm talking on stills, though.
I think that's fine. For stills, I mean, I haven't really felt I've needed more, to be honest. I feel like for my use, I've been fine.
Then I feel this is probably more for landscape photographers and some people who are doing some really high quality print work and stuff like that.
I think that's really the key here is print. You need the high resolution if you're going to be printing your images with a high PPI, and people are going to be viewing these up close. And yeah, that's if you're printing, this camera is going to be for you.
Yep, that is. So let's keep with the camera. Let's just knock all the cameras out, all the new camera releases right away. Let's get to Canon. Unfortunately, we don't got any new there we go, good English. We don't have any new full frame cameras coming from Canon, but they did release some exciting new point and shoots, right?
This is true. Canon just announced 2 new point and shoots, follow-ups to their previous point and shoot lineups. These are the Canon G5X Mark II and the G7X Mark III. Gabe, what makes these cameras so great?
Well, I mean, for people who aren't familiar with Canon's point and shoot line and don't have them all named down and know all the specs, these are really their higher end point and shoots. They both are around $750 to $800, and they have 1-inch sensors, which really is for me the key feature of why you'd get a point and shoot versus a cell phone, because you get that larger sensor size, which isn't as big obviously as a crop sensor or anything, but it's still a lot bigger than what you get in a cell phone. And these also offer of course optical zoom. You get 4.2x optical zoom on the G7X Mark III and 5x optical zoom on the G5X Mark II. So some nice optical zoom, 1-inch sensor. They added some cool new features like vertical video, which I think is really a nod to where we're seeing content going. So much of content is created in the vertical format nowadays. So that's a cool thing to see them do. And of course, the big thing that everyone was waiting for, drumroll, 4K video.
That's right.
Yeah,
these cameras now have 4K.
Yeah, they've been very popular. I mean, the G7X Mark III has been very popular among vloggers because at $750, it's not as expensive as a lot of Sony's offerings, but it was held back a little bit by the fact that it only had 1080p. You know, I mean, not everyone needs 4K, but it is a nice option to have that makes sure that your camera is going to be, you know, future-proofed a little. So, thank you, Canon, for finally, you know, 5 years late to the party adding 4K video.
Yeah, to these cameras. I will add they also shoot full HD at 120 frames per second, so you can get some cool slow motion shots. And yeah, a lot of people love Canon's color science, their image processing, and I think we did a dedicated travel episode. This to me would be a strong contender for a point and shoot to take with you on a trip. Like it's smaller, it's lighter, it's got great zoom range. It's got a flip out screen so you can see yourself if you're taking either a photo or vlogging and recording a video. And, you know, I think this is something people could absolutely consider for traveling or for daily vlogging or anything like that.
Yeah, these seem kind of more geared for your everyday user and stuff like that. The Sony RX100 Mark VI, which is Sony's top-of-the-line point-and-shoot, still really beats out the Canon 5X Mark II in almost every category. Really, the only two that Canon wins is they have a lower price point at $900 versus $1,200 for the RX100 Mark VI, and they also actually have a lower aperture of f1.8 versus Sony's f2.8. So that's two key differences that the Canon has. However, Sony, if you're shooting video and you want to point and shoot for video, I mean, you really can't beat their 4K video quality where you can use S-Log2 or S-Log3 for flat color profiles. And the fact that Canon can do full HD at 120 frames a second. Well, let's take a look at Sony's full HD at 240, 480, or 960 frames a second. Now, granted, at the 960 frames a second and 480 frames a second, you're getting a lot more compression so that they can shoot that many frames a second. I'm pretty sure it has a limited recording time too, but still, yeah, they blow Canon specs out of the water, but also it does come at a price.
Yeah, I mean, both are going to be very solid point and shoot options. And, you know, it's almost like these cameras mirror the mirrorless options where, again, Sony dominates in specs and performance. The features they are packing into their cameras, the huge autofocus coverage, the image resolution, the quality. But still, I think Canon has a good place in the market. They've won a lot of people over, again, with their color. And, you know, I think it's exciting to see the PowerShot series, the G5X Mark II, and the G7X Mark III finally get the 4K. And
Stetson, I know you're looking to get a point and shoot, right? Eventually, possibly.
It's something I do consider.
Would you go for the Sony, being it more expensive, or would you think you'd go for the Canon at a cheaper price?
At this point, I would absolutely go for the Canon. I started out shooting on Canon bodies. I love their simpler interface. And I actually see the G5X or even the G7X as almost more versatile than the Sony camera just because you get the flip out screen. So with the Canon G5X, normally the screen will rotate out and you can see it. This one can actually flip almost vertically straight up and over so you can see yourself.
I think Sony's does that too, though, just not to ruin your
My
speech.
great point.
Yeah. So, but I do agree with the other stuff. The color science and the user interface of Canon's cameras really looks a lot nicer. Plus the lower price point. I mean, $300 isn't huge, but that's a pretty big difference when you're talking only about a $900 camera to a $1,200 camera. That's a pretty big percentage change.
Yeah, I was just checking, and you're absolutely right. The Sony camera can flip out.
Yes.
But
and
I don't know.
Here comes golden shopping cart.
Yeah, just rolling straight towards Gabe.
Once again, getting the
I'm telling
right.
you, it's the geography. I'm in Massachusetts. We're just like more up. I don't know.
It's like when you leave the shopping cart in the park, or when you're sitting in your car and a shopping cart just goes rolling across like a ghost is pushing it.
And you're just like, no, and then you have to go running after it before it crashes into something.
So we'll see those two cameras coming out August 2nd. That's when they start shipping. So check them out on B&H's site or Amazon if you want to pre-order them. And you can have them to use before the end of the summer. So if you have, an end of summer camping trip or stuff like that, you can bring your new point-and-shoot camera out to try it out and use it to take some nice pics.
Or even if you're doing a semester abroad, this is a great opportunity.
Nope. Canon says you cannot use these on semester abroad. So, sorry. Yeah.
All right, looks like you're picking up the Sony.
Yeah, these are very versatile cameras. It's going to be interesting to see some actual direct comparisons color-wise and, resolution-wise, sharpness and stuff like that, but we'll have to wait till we get into August to actually see that.
I'd love to see the reviews of these two when they drop. Gabe, do you think this is something that could replace like a more proper mirrorless camera, like an A7 III or something? Like, could someone use this as a YouTube production?
No. I'll just cut it off. No. It's really, yes, you can start with one of these possibly, but the fact that you don't have interchangeable lenses, you don't have that larger sensor, because the 1-inch sensor is smaller than an APS-C crop sensor. Is it ASP? No, APS-C, I'm pretty sure.
It's APS-C.
Yeah, so it's smaller than the crop sensor. I'm pretty sure it's smaller than Micro Four Thirds even. It is better than your cell phone in some ways. Cell phones have smarter image processing in a lot of ways too. So, yes, it's more in the cell phone category, but I do think that ultimately, yeah, you probably want to eventually go to, a larger camera. It depends what you're filming. Depends what you're filming, though. It depends on your video. If your main point of your content isn't the video quality and is more about the content, then, having a smaller camera for vlogging, or something where you need a smaller camera that can help you get more content, better content, then this might be all you need, potentially. So it really depends.
I'm curious, interested to see it when it comes out. And again, cool camera updates from Canon. I think that's all we have for the cameras.
And actually, why don't we just take a break? And, we're about like 20 or so minutes in, 25 minutes in. Let's do we don't have a sponsored segment because we aren't sponsored, but let's do our not sponsored segment and talk about who we're not sponsored by.
I think that's a great idea.
Do I go first this time?
I think you are first this time.
Okay, all right.
My memory serves me correct.
Ready.
Stretch it out. Figure out what you're going for as I locate my clock application.
Yeah, we have 30 seconds on the clock I get.
30 seconds. Are you ready?
And I am ready whenever we are.
On your mark, get set, go.
Hi, my name is Gabe Shakur, and I would like to say that this week, the Pinch to Zoom podcast is not sponsored by Twitter adding the ability to edit tweets. Twitter is the only social media platform where, other than Snapchat and, Instagram stories. All right, but you can edit your Instagram posts, you can edit your Facebook posts, you can edit even now your YouTube videos once they're up. But you know what you can't edit? Twitter. So Twitter, please make it so we can edit our tweets, even just give us a 5-minute window after we post.
30. That's it.
Yeah, that's what I want to say on that. And now it's your turn.
All right.
Getting ready on the 30-second shot clock. And 3, 2, 1.
This episode of Pinch to Zoom podcast is not sponsored by Verb Energy. Verb makes healthy, nutritious energy bars with the same amount of caffeine as a shot of espresso. These 90-calorie bars help you feel energized throughout the day using caffeine derived from green tea. So wake up, have a Verb bar, feel energized, and have a productive day.
Okay, that felt way too written out.
It was not.
I don't know. I think I'm going to have to look up what their ad copy is that they send to other people to make sure that you're not pulling directly from that, because that feels pretty well rehearsed and like well written out.
I just got into them.
Wait, is it verb or verve?
Verb.
Like spelled like a verb, like an action thing?
Like, yeah, verb. The VERB verb. Here, this is what I had the package on hand.
It's pretty clever because it's like verb is like to do something. So I do like the naming. I'll applaud their naming. I might have to try that out.
What's your verb?
My verb is actually walking currently.
I like that. It's a step in the right direction.
Literally. Haha. because I'm recovering from my ankle injury. So walking is my current fastest mode of transport. I've done a couple quick, jogs or stuff like that, but really walking is the mode currently.
I like it. All right.
Well, let's get back into the news. We still got a lot of gear to cover, and we're moving away from cameras to something that's not at all camera related and is really our forte, the Nintendo Switch Lite.
Yeah,
now
so
we're just crazy gamers.
As the audience know, Gabe and I have been gaming nonstop. Gabe, what's the latest game we've been playing?
I've actually been playing Fortnite still.
I like it. I'm still huge into Candy Crush. Haven't stopped, won't stop.
I was actually this new one came out called Pong. I've been playing, and I heard that Snake was possibly this new game around the corner coming out.
Ooh,
very breaking graphics. No, jokes aside, we're not the biggest gamers, but I do pay attention to a lot of the gaming news because I have this dream that one day maybe I'll get into gaming, or it's also just, interesting to pay attention to because it's an aspect of storytelling that's very interactive, and it's also, is driven by a lot of the technological advancements that you see in computing technology. So, what's new with the Switch?
What is new with the Switch?
What is new with the Switch? It's not much is new. The only thing that's new is the cheaper price. The Switch Lite comes at $200 versus the Nintendo Switch's $300 price tag, and it's a lot more small. So it's more like a 2DS, as it's only intended for handheld use, And the biggest thing that I think is kind of funny is it might be called the Nintendo Switch Lite, but it actually can't switch. The big feature about the Nintendo Switch was, you can play it and then you can, dock it for your TV. You can take off the Joy-Cons, all that stuff. This can't do that, and so it's not really a Switch, but at the same time, it is a Switch.
Yeah, this was a really interesting product to me, and I think it's Nintendo's way of reaching a younger audience where the parents are going to be paying for the console. They needed a lower price tag, and I actually see this replacing the Nintendo DS. And, that's kind of a hot take from a non-gamer, but I really do think this sort of the form factor Nintendo has achieved, along with the popularity of the Switch, can really give the Switch Lite a boost. And I could easily see people carrying this around. Gabe, you mentioned the Nintendo 2DS. I think even just the DS itself or the 3DS.
That whole line, yeah.
Yeah, I think this could be like a new way forward for Nintendo and their handheld gaming systems.
Yeah, it is definitely, they're trying to go for that, the cheaper price to get, the younger gamers, not overburden, families that are, they're asking for, oh, Mom, I want this new Nintendo thing. $300 is just, it seems a little bigger, and not quite as giftable as a $200 thing, and especially if it goes on sale, $175 or so. So yeah. Also, I see this possibly coming in. If you have like an apartment or like a household with multiple people living in it, and say you have a Nintendo Switch as your main console for everyone, to play games on, watch media. You can also now get the Nintendo Switch Lite, so you can, continue playing a game on your own in your room when you're out, and not have to worry about, taking away everyone's main console, potentially.
That's a good point. I could actually spin this in a slightly different way.
Okay,
where
here we
maybe
go. Ooh,
the parents don't want their kids taking over the TV and playing on the Switch all the time. You give them the Switch Lite, and they're going to be all set, ready to go, only doing their handheld gaming, so they won't interfere with movie nights or when you're catching up on the latest season of Stranger Things that just came out. So, I don't know, potential parent benefit, having your kids have their own device instead of taking over the TV.
Yeah, that is, I could see that too. So it's definitely, this is a nice expansion of the Switch line. Unfortunately, for a lot of people, it kind of indicated, or there was also some rumors or more confirmation coming out that the Switch Pro won't really be happening ever, or at least this year. But we did see that the Nintendo Switch, the original one, actually got a revamp a week later after the Switch Lite was announced, in that they added a slightly better processor and extended the battery life from 3 to 6 hours to 4.5 to 9 hours. So Yeah,
That's pretty huge.
That's nice, and it was a good thing because the Switch Lite had a battery of 3 to 7 hours. So it was like, wait, this has a better battery than the current Switch. And then Nintendo was like, hold the phone. Here's the new Switch. Kind of. That's not really new, but slightly new. So.
Does the Switch Lite have the same internal processing power as the Switch?
I don't think it does exactly. I don't think there's any confirmation yet because Nintendo, unlike Xbox or PlayStation, they aren't really big on specs. They're more about the whole experience, the look, and that stuff. So they don't really release specs when they announce products, and the specs really come once the product's released and people tear it down or benchmark it and stuff like that. So I don't think we actually know what processor it's going to be running.
That's interesting. I think from my experience, I had the Nintendo GameCube and the Wii. I love those. And, to your point, you're kind of right that the experience Nintendo creates is great. And many people who are buying it, that don't necessarily care about the specs. They care about having a great Nintendo gaming experience. And I think that's what the Switch Lite is aiming to provide at a more affordable price point.
Yeah, so check it out on September 20th. I'm pretty sure the date is going to start shipping. There's 3 colors that it comes in. I think it's gray, blue, and, the blue's kind of more turquoise.
Yellow.
And a yellow. And they're also releasing a couple special edition ones. I know there's a Pokemon special edition one, and I think there's another one out there. But yeah, so they're ready to go come I guess technically the last day of summer. But yeah, for the fall, back to school season or the holiday season.
Right when you have the most time to game.
Yes, I'm going back to school. Oh no, wait, I am crushed with homework, and never mind.
I don't know. It'll still be fun during the holiday season. I remember getting a Nintendo Game Boy for Christmas, and then boom, so much fun and joy playing that. All right, Gabe, what is next on the news segment? What else? What new product do we have coming out?
So here we have, I guess we'll stick with the light qualification or not gamification, makeification, brandification, expansification. Yeah, expansification is the word. The light expansification of a product line. We had DJI releasing their ronin-sc, which is technically, and it can kind of be called the Ronin-S Lite, but in also a lot of ways is more advanced than the Ronin-S.
So wait. Does that mean it's a Ronin-S Pro?
Well, first, for those people who don't know what I'm even talking about when I say Ronin-S or Ronin or DJI, or when I even say words, first learn the English language. Then DJI is obviously the maker of drones, and they also have a lot of other camera products, and they're a part owner of Hasselblad now, so very good creative quality, creating... I can't talk. Products for... I have to learn English now.
You want me to just take over, take a breather?
You take over here.
So basically, DJI, they make drones.
No, I'm back here. And very good products for... Okay, you take it over again.
They're amazing at stabilizing video footage.
All right, and here I go. One more time. I'm going to give it a try. And the drones are like birds that... They fly. All right, you're just going to have to take
I'm just going to take this one. So DJI, they make amazing stabilizers and gimbals. When the Ronin line is their camera stabilizing systems. They had a Ronin M. This is a massive boxy stabilizer. Then they came out with the Ronin S. This is a handheld device. It's almost like you're holding like a wand or something that has the stabilizer attached with multiple axes. And then the Ronin-sc is you just kind of scale the Ronin S down a little bit. It's a little bit smaller, lighter. It still has the same battery life you'd expect, or very similar. And it's made for basically smaller mirrorless cameras. And like Gabe said, it's the light version in terms of it being a little bit smaller, but it's also kind of a pro version because it has some new advanced features that are unique to the SC, better than the Ronin S, and not available on the other stabilizers currently being offered from DJI. So Gabe, what is new with the SC?
So basically, I have the Ronin S, and I've really liked it. But one of the biggest things I did notice initially was that it is pretty heavy. It weighs 3.2 pounds and 4 pounds when you have the grip added. So yeah, that's pretty heavy when you're also adding a camera that weighs possibly, 4 pounds, 5 pounds essentially. That's like almost 10 pounds that you're holding with one arm usually and trying to then also run around and do smooth controlled movements, because even though the gimbal can, smooth out most of the stuff, it still helps if you're not, raising the camera from your waist to your head every time you take a step. So yeah, that's the biggest thing, is that this the Ronin-sc only weighs 2.42 pounds, so a lot lighter, and again, 11-hour battery life, about the same as the Ronin-s. Now, they added some new features which have really kind of marked that this is kind of what I've been calling the Gen 2 of single-handed gimbals. The Ronin-s was really the part of the first generation of those single-handed gimbals. Now you've seen the Zhiyun Crane 2 Lab, you've seen the Moza Aircross 2, and the Feiyutech AK4500. So 3 major gimbal makers have come out with these new brand of gimbals. And essentially what these have been is, lighter, smarter, and more importantly, more usable. And so they've, gotten a lot of feedback from users who have said, hey, this is what we need, and they've added those features.
It's true. This is really packing in terms of features. And, I think one of the other aspects of purchasing a gimbal that, some people may not consider is the application that goes along with it, like how you control the gimbal, how you change the settings of the gimbal. A lot of manufacturers make a application for your phone that accompanies the gimbal for changing certain settings, and I think DJI really did a good job improving their application. So we got some new settings and features exclusively available for the Ronin-sc, and that's been amazing to see. One of them is the motion control.
Yeah, this is pretty cool. They used to have this accessory for the Ronin-s and their large Ronin and Ronin-m called the Force Pro, and this was kind of this huge handheld thing that you could move around, and the gimbal would mimic the movement of that device. So you could tilt it up, it would tilt the camera up, tilt it down. You get it. It's basically like a magic wand in a way. So now, rather than making people try to buy this $900, I think it might be even $1,000 accessory, they actually released with their application the ability to do Force Mobile, which is using your accelerometer and gyroscope in your phone. You can take your phone and link it to your gimbal, and now you can actually move your phone, and that movement controls the gimbal. So that is really cool to see, since pretty much everyone has a smartphone.
The other big thing here is Active Track. This is something that's been amazing in DJI drones, where you're controlling the drone with your phone. You can tap and draw a box around a subject, whether it's a person or a car or something that's going to be moving, and the drone would then follow that subject. It would keep it in frame. It could stay a certain distance from it. With Active Track 3.0 on the Ronin-sc, you can mount your phone onto your camera, which is on the Ronin-sc, and the phone and the accompanying application, you can do the same thing. Draw a box around a subject like a person, and the Ronin-sc will automatically pan and tilt and keep that subject in the frame.
Yeah, this is pretty cool. We'll have to see how well it works, because unlike the Active Track that they use in their drones, which is all in one system, this is effectively using your phone you put in, all right, I'm using this full frame camera with this lens at this focal length, and then it goes, all right, and looks at your camera's field of view and says, all right, this is effectively what that camera is going to be seeing. And then so when you draw around the say you're filming a person and you draw around that person, it will then try to keep that person within what it estimates is going to be the frame of your camera. So there could be some issues, with compatibility, and really that DJI releasing the software, that keeps it up to date and keeps it working right. But this is a huge thing for, anyone who's used a gimbal before. When you're trying to do that shot, like rotating around someone or something, a lot of times it takes a lot of takes to get it right, because you have to, make sure that you're not tripping over something and falling. So, all right, let me walk in the right path. All right, now let me turn the gimbal the right way. All right, now, there's so many things that go into keeping that frame perfectly centered. And, just one small twitch can throw off that perfect, circular move around an object or a person or something. So, yeah, this is huge that they added this. I will have to say that they weren't the first to do it. I'm pretty sure either Zhiyun or Moza has a similar thing. but kind of like how Apple does, I expect that DJI has done with, has polished up a feature and made it a lot nicer and a lot more user-friendly.
You also get some really cool time-lapse features where you can set the Ronin-sc up and program in a time-lapse on your phone and have the camera just move slowly for a duration of time. So that's really cool to see. And Gabe, did you mention the safety lock or the locking arms?
I didn't, and this is really, honestly, it's a tiny. It seems like a tiny feature, but it is huge. And I just got the AK-4500 gimbal from Feiyutech, and it also has this, so I can attest that this feature is really nice to have. Basically, a 3-axis gimbal has 3 motors, and they're, the arms that come off it that you mount your camera on kind of rotate independently. And so when it's off, it just kind of is like a sloppy piece of spaghetti, flopping all over the place, except for not spaghetti, obviously. But, it's just uncontrollable. And with the Ronin-S, you had no way of securing that other than kind of trying to wrap like maybe some Velcro that they included around it, or like tying it or zip. I don't know. There was no good way. So now what all these gimbal makers are doing, and what DJI did with the Ronin-sc, is they added gimbal locks on each axis, so you can lock down that axis and it won't move at all, which is good for transporting or when you're balancing the gimbal, so you don't have to worry about, oh, my tilt axis is going all over the place because it's not balanced, and I'm trying to do the left to right axis. It just, it's hard to describe, but if you've used a gimbal before, or you're thinking of using it and kind of understand how they work, this is a really nice feature to have.
I saw someone else too comment on just the little joystick. So these gimbals, to control some of their features and movements, they have a little joystick. It doesn't really look like an Xbox controller joystick, but it has the same kind of like circular design. You can move it all around. And the Ronin-S had a joystick you could unscrew. And this could potentially be good for travel. But as Gabe mentioned, you have these spaghetti arms flapping all over the place. So you basically need to throw this thing in a case anyway. And some YouTubers were commenting they would lose the joystick because it would just come unscrewed, and it's a tiny little piece and boom, gone. This one has a solid joystick that's not coming off, and it just I've heard it feels better. It's easier to control. And, kind of with the other improvements has just been a tiny tweak here, tiny tweak there, that's really making the Ronin-sc come together as a powerful, popular gimbal. And Gabe, what's the price on this guy?
So price point is going to be $449, so basically $450. And a lot of sites have been being like, oh my gosh, this is so much cheaper than the Ronin-S, because the Ronin-S was originally released for, I think, $750. However, DJI now has the Ronin-S Essential Kit, or I think that's what they call it, and that starts at $500. So it's not really that much cheaper than the Ronin-S, and that does kind of go in line with the fact that even though this is a smaller, lighter, can't handle as much heavy cameras, it is a lot more advanced as far as like smart features are concerned. So Stetson, my question to you is, I know you don't have a gimbal yet. Would you be looking at possibly getting this while you wait for your Rhino slider to come in?
That's actually a really good question. I'm deeply intrigued by this product, and part of me does want to get it. What's holding me back is I use the Sony 24 to 105 millimeter lens, and this is a pretty large lens. And I've had some people say that, even though this is made for smaller mirrorless cameras, having a large lens with that distributes the weight of the camera more forward can be more challenging to balance on the SC. And so I'm unsure if it would be able to handle that, or if I'd want something that could support a larger payload. I think what I'd want to do is confirm it would work with my current setup, and then very maybe. I mean, if I was to get a gimbal right now, this is it, hands down. So
yeah, I think it does work with your setup. I know they have on their site, they have a PDF of all the confirmed compatibility list, with each camera that's out, and then each lens possibly that you could put on that camera. So I'm actually looking at it right now, and let's see, A7 III, and let's go to what do you have, the 24 to 105?
Yep.
Let's see. They have 18. It works with the 18 to 200 somehow. So that's crazy. 2470, 20. Come on, 18 to 105. Yeah, it says it does work. The question that you'd have to then find out is how much you could actually zoom in, potentially.
Oh, yeah.
But the thing you have to remember with gimbals also is you're not going to really want to use this at any focal length, really more than probably 70 millimeters. I have a 24 to 70 one, and 70 millimeters is about where it becomes almost unusable because it just takes so much, it's so hard to keep that camera centered on the subject once it's that far zoomed in. So yeah, probably, usually use it wider with gimbals so you won't have to deal with, zooming in and the lens extending. So it's, for $450, it's a really good tool for someone, I see this pairing better with something like a Panasonic GH5 because that's a little lighter. And so it's a little better for quick shooting. But yeah, this can also work with slightly heavier cameras as it supports payloads up to, I think, about 5 pounds, like 4.98 pounds.
As someone who's tested out the Ronin-S and now your new gimbal that this company has sent you, would you see yourself looking into the SC? Are you fine with your current setup? Is it an upgrade? Who is this camera gimbal for?
I was not sure. I had it in my cart and I was almost going to buy it, but then I was like, I have a new gimbal kind of, and this, the new gimbal that I got, it does payloads up to, I think, 10 pounds. It has a lot of the same new features. So I was like, all right, I don't think I really need this. I'm hoping, that DJI will release, maybe a Ronin-S that is like a Ronin S2. But honestly, it's so hard to predict their release schedule. I think this is really for, YouTube creators that mainly, YouTube creators, online creators who aren't really doing pro video work. And so they don't need to mount, a wireless transmitter on their camera or really, potentially use all those accessories or heavier cameras because the Ronin-S supports up to, I think, 8 pounds maybe, or 8.5 pounds. So you don't need that much of a heavier camera, but you can also add follow focus on there and you can put a video screen on this Ronin-sc. So it is expandable. So you start out at $450 with the price, but you can, add some more accessories and get it up into the $1,000 range.
Wow. I do like your point for the GH5 and maybe the Panasonic cameras. Okay, here's a question for you. I know you are very much against using something like the Canon G5X as for video, but do you think a camera like that, like a point and shoot on a gimbal, is that a viable combination right now?
That would be really interesting to see. I think it would definitely, it helps the video quality of whatever you put on it. If you put a smartphone on a gimbal, that instantly makes your footage, oh wow, this footage all of a sudden looks, 5 times better. The thing that I would be dealing with on the, the smaller point and shoots is, I guess it could work. I don't know. I would just wonder about the autofocus and stuff like that. And then also you can't ever put a follow focus on there. So how well would it work? But yeah, I'd be interested to see people trying it. The question also I'd have is what is the minimum weight that you can put on the Ronin-sc? Because I know if a camera doesn't come up to the heavy enough weight, it actually can't even balance it. So that would be a question to check out for specs if you were thinking of putting a lighter camera on the Ronin-sc.
Check out the official PDF.
Yeah, that would be the ticket for that. So that's exciting news from DJI. Still waiting on a new drone from them, of course. Drone Watch 2019 continues. And we'll see when that comes to an end or actually has a result.
Gabe, I feel like we talk about so many exciting new products, and yet the products we want are just not the ones that are coming out. You're still waiting for your new camera. You're still waiting for your new drone.
Yeah, I'm just waiting on all this stuff. But it's expectations, and eventually, hopefully, the companies will follow through with that. And until then, they're at least releasing some cool new products to expand their product line and offerings. So yeah, now getting to the last thing. I know we kind of hinted at this or talked about it briefly in the last episode as it was a rumor or that it was coming up, but Apple's really kind of overhauled their new MacBook line and kind of slashed some, added some. What did they do exactly, Stetson?
Yeah, so Apple totally restructured their MacBook offerings. They eliminated the MacBook, the 12-inch Retina display, super. In fact, it was the lightest computer in their lineup. They removed that, and it was no,
it's gone.
it's gone
Oh my God, R.I.P.
for the few people who use that.
MacBook, the MacBook. That was what it was. When was it born?
2016,
2015,
2015.
maybe 2014, 2015 to July 2019. RIP. It will be missed kind of by a few people and then not at all. Yeah, that was a weird computer because especially now it was like, it's not that powerful. It's super light, but at the same time it's more expensive than an iPad Pro with a keyboard. So why don't you just get that, as that has a touchscreen and is far more versatile? Yeah, I think that was probably a smart move on their part, but it's sad to see it go. And it's also weird because now they don't have just a MacBook. They only have MacBook Airs and MacBook Pros.
I think it's definitely weird in terms of that lineup sense. And in terms of the other updates, so they did do the back to school refresh. This is probably what we talked about last time, where basically every summer Apple does their computer lineup refresh for all of these high school students getting ready to zoom into college, or any college students who have just super old laptops ready for that upgrade can start the semester off strong, fresh computer. And so they updated their MacBook Pro, the base model, the 13-inch model, and the MacBook Air.
I don't mean to contradict you, but don't they usually do that refresh after school starts?
That was only for my year.
No, that was my year too, because I had that issue as well. And I kind of hated them for it, but I'm okay. If they're doing it in the summer now, that's a lot better because it is super annoying. If you're, like, all right, oh good, school's coming up, I got to get a new laptop, and all right, I got my new laptop. Yeah, this is the wait. It's not the best laptop anymore, and so yeah, I'm glad they're releasing it right before school because then you get kids going back to school with new laptops, that they're going to be able to last, 4 years at least for college and plus probably more. So thank you, Apple, for doing that, I guess, even though it's probably just so you can make more money.
And I think the improvements are pretty good too, right? So the MacBook Pro 13-inch, I mean, I'd be interested to hear your take. So basically what's new is a few key things here. Apple, they got rid of the top row of keys, the function keys, those F1 through F12 keys you normally see on a computer. They replaced them with their touch bar. So Apple has this small screen, it's a bar, it goes across the top, they call it the touch bar. It offers the same functionality as your function keys, but just in like a touch screen interface. They also added
Do you have a touch bar on your computer?
Gabe, yeah, my computer's from 2015.
Yeah.
So no.
So no.
I do not.
Okay, I have a touch bar on my computer, and I gotta say it's not the most useful thing. I think Apple is trying to tout this as like some huge feature that's really beneficial, but in a lot of ways, I find it, if anything, it takes longer to get to the keys that I really need, and I don't end up using a lot of the keyboard shortcuts that it offers, like potentially, quick access to bookmarks on Chrome and stuff like that, because it's too far to find, and it's not like something that you can feel without looking off the screen.
What about when you're like using Final Cut Pro and you can use it to like scrub through your timeline?
Even then, it's a lot of times, well, I guess the timeline scrubbing feature is pretty cool, but with like keyboard shortcuts, I often find that I just use keyboard shortcuts because my fingers can naturally rest on those, and I know where they are by feel, where if I'm, having to, all right, let me trim this, or let me blade this clip, or, add this effect, I have to look down at the, the little time, whatever the strip, the touch strip, and, try to find where it is. And potentially it might not be up because I haven't highlighted the right section, the right clip, or potentially I'm, highlighting the project rather than the clip. So a certain selection of tools are up, and it's like, yeah, it's kind of confusing at times. I mean, you learn to work with it, and kind of once you get used to it, it becomes more useful. But still, I think there's a ways to go before that they can make this super useful. Maybe, the movie Black Panther?
Yes.
How that in that movie they have, I mean, granted this is using a material vibranium, which we don't have on Earth, but they have the ability to like, it can effectively, they can create things out of it that move and stuff. So imagine if they could create a touch bar that was actually 3D buttons that could move and shift and change into different things as you needed them.
That's really cool. This reminds me of a product that was a screen protector, and I think it had, I want to say a gel that would fill in pockets where the keyboard keys were. So you would get a tactile typing experience even on your touchscreen. And
wow, that's awesome.
Right? I mean, talk about adding more components that could easily break and just ranking up repair costs, but could be a unique idea. I will say one thing I do love is having Touch ID. I think that's a really cool thing to have. These computers are packing new quad-core processors. It's got that T2 security chip. I love the True Tone display. This will automatically adjust white balance based on the ambient lighting conditions around you. And they have the updated butterfly keyboard. Gabe, how do you feel about this butterfly keyboard?
It's definitely takes some getting used to, coming from, I was on a 2013 MacBook Pro to now the new 2018 MacBook Pro, and it takes a lot of getting used to because their keys aren't as raised. There's not as much key travel. They just don't feel as nice typing, but eventually you'll get used to it and you'll just come to accept the lower quality keyboard and key feel and overall satisfaction. No, I mean, I get why they're doing it. They're making it thinner. The question I often have is how many of the pro users, I guess this really only applies to the MacBook Pros, but how many of the pro users are actually asking for significantly thinner laptops and would just be fine if Apple kept making kind of the same design or just slightly better, but added a lot better, features and, specs and stuff like that.
Honestly, I think people would have really preferred the old style keyboard, arguably one of the best keyboards we've seen on mobile computers, and I have certainly been loving it along with all of my ports. But as we are heading towards a USB-C future, having all the USB-C ports on the new MacBook Pro is, of course, really cool to see. And this guy retails for only $1,299. I say only, that's probably not the right word to use there.
Yeah, that's a little bit pricey, but I think the MacBook Air starts at $999, right? Isn't that true? I'm pretty sure.
I'm heading over to Apple's website now.
Stetson on a frantic search through Apple's site. But yeah, no, I'm pretty sure that's what it is, which is good that they at least have something kind of under $1,000. I know I really liked it better when Apple had their MacBook Air starting at $799, so that was a lot more tempting for college students and high school students. But $999 isn't completely out of reach.
It's actually $1,099.
Yikes. Oh, okay. I think it's $999, the student discount is what it is.
Oh, all right. I like that. I like that thinking.
Yeah, just so that is also a reminder to any students out there, if you're looking to buy a laptop, Apple does have their education pricing, and they have some good deals now where you buy a laptop or a computer and you get some free Beats headphones. So check that out now if you're in the market for an Apple laptop or iPad or whatever.
Oh man, I remember that. I still have my Beats, still going strong.
Yeah, they're not the best headphones as far as build quality and stuff, but they're arguably, they're competing with the best of the best because
free headphones. You can't really argue with that.
So, but that's really it, I think. There was a lot of other stuff, like I said, like you had Sony release a couple new lenses, Canon released a couple new lenses. There was, the Royal foldable phone?
Oh, yeah. Royal foldable phone came out. It's the first commercially available foldable phone. I'm not sure if it's available in the US yet, but I think it is available in other places worldwide. The Royal Flex Pi. We
also had, the AKG released some headphones for like studio use and traveling. They're not wireless, but still, it's some nice new headphones to compete maybe with the ATH 50s from Audio-Technica. So yeah, a lot of overall tech news coming out in the past weeks. We'll, in our next episode, we'll cover anything else we missed or any new stuff that happens. But yeah, we just decided to dedicate this one episode all to technology products that have come out in the past month or so, and really dive deep and not dive deep as well.
It's the hot tech items in this hot summer.
Exactly. So yeah, that's about it. If you guys aren't already subscribed, well, you don't really have to subscribe to podcasts. If you want to do it, you already found us and listened to this episode this far. So thank you. And let a friend know if you liked this episode. Share it with a friend who's into technology or you think could learn a little bit more about technology. And hopefully, they'll appreciate it as well.
And you can follow us on social media at Pinch to Zoom Pod or at Pinch to Zoom Podcast. And you can find us wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah, thank you guys for listening. This is our last episode for July. We'll be talking to you in August next time we come back.
And that wraps up this episode. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Yep, I'm Gabe, and I was the first to thank you for listening, so I'm better.
Okay, Gabe. And the shopping cart award rolls towards
right
Gabe.
Here.
Per usual.
Oh, I need to oil up these wheels, but trust me, I'll take care of it well.
We'll have the WD-40 award coming in next.